The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of alien delegates filled the massive space, their bodies shifting in colors and shapes that no human eye had seen before. Earth joined the stars 50 years ago. At the center of it all stood Daeho, wearing the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. He knew what was coming. Beside him stood Heejin, her tablet glowing with data she had gathered over months of investigation. She leaned close and whispered, "They've already made up their minds. The vote counters show we've lost before we even began." Daeho nodded slightly but kept his eyes forward. High above them, on a platform that seemed to float in the air, sat Speaker Vrenthos. The ancient Thalaxian looked like a mixture of crystal and smoke, constantly shifting between solid and gas. His species had founded the Council 3,000 years ago, and his word carried weight that could move entire civilizations. "Ambassador Daeho of Earth," Vrenthos spoke, and his voice echoed through translation devices worn by every delegate. "You stand here to answer for humanity's crimes against the peaceful order of this council." Daeho stepped forward. "Speaker Vrenthos, honored delegates, humanity committed no crime. We defended our colonists from pirates who attacked without warning. We used only the force necessary to protect innocent lives." A ripple of sounds moved through the chamber. Some species clicked their approval, but most remained silent or made noises of disagreement. A delegate from the Vreltian Empire rose, his scales glowing angry red. "You destroyed the Monument of First Light? A sacred place that stood for 600 generations. The pirates used your monument as a shield." Daeho replied, keeping his voice calm. "We gave them every chance to surrender. We warned them multiple times. They chose to fight from within the monument, knowing we would be blamed for any damage." "Lies," the Vreltin hissed. "Humans are violent, aggressive. In 50 years, you have expanded faster than any species in Council history. You take what you want, and apologize later." Heijin touched her tablet, and holographic images appeared above Daeho's head. "These are the communication logs," she said clearly. 17 warnings sent to the pirates. 43 minutes given for evacuation of the monument. The pirates opened fire first, using fusion weapons that damaged the monument's foundation before any human ship fired back. The evidence was clear, but Daeho could see it didn't matter. The delegates weren't looking at the data. They were looking at each other, confirming votes they had already promised. This wasn't about the monument. It never had been. Speaker Vrenthos raised one crystalline appendage. "The evidence is noted. However, this incident is merely the latest in a pattern of concerning behavior. Humanity seeks resources too eagerly. You build weapons too quickly. You question traditions that have kept peace for millennia. You do not respect the natural order." "The natural order?" Daeho felt anger rising but pushed it down. "We seek only to grow, to learn, to contribute to this council. Every species here did the same when they were young. Other species learned restraint," Vrenthos said coldly. "They learned patience. They learned to follow the guidance of elder races. Humanity refuses to learn these lessons. You are dangerous because you cannot be controlled." There it was. The truth finally spoken aloud. Heijin had discovered it weeks ago in secret communications between council members. They didn't fear human violence. They feared human unpredictability. They feared that humanity wouldn't stay in the place assigned to them. Daeho tried one last time. "Give us a chance. Let us prove we can be good members of this community. Humanity has so much to offer. Our scientists have made breakthroughs in medicine that saved millions of Korthari from the Red Plague. Our engineers helped rebuild the Mendak's homeworld after the asteroid strike. We want to be partners, not threats." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Daeho thought perhaps his words had reached someone. Then, Vrenthos spoke again. "The Council will now vote on Resolution 44 to 927, All human vessels and colonies will withdraw from Council space within 6 standard months. Any human presence after that time will be met with immediate military force. All trade agreements with Earth are void. All cultural exchanges are terminated. Humanity is hereby exiled to the outer veil. You will not return. With card. With clicking the reader, and devire percents of Nuver. With card look stan. Clicking the reader. With clicking the reader. With card look stan. With clicking the reader. The vote happened quickly. Lights appeared above each delegate station, showing their choice. Green for opposition to exile. Red for support. The chamber filled with red light, like a sea of blood. Here and there, a few green lights appeared. 3. Only 3 species voted against exile. The vote is decided, Vrenthos announced. 847 inches favor. 3 opposed. Humanity is exiled. You have 6 months. Use them wisely. Deho stood frozen as the chamber emptied around him. Delegates filed out quickly, avoiding eye contact. Only Heijin remained at his side, and she was crying quietly. What do we do now? She asked. We go home. Deho said, his voice hollow. We tell Earth what happened. We prepare for exile. That night, Deho stood in the human embassy's observation room, looking out at the stars. He composed a final message to broadcast to Council space, knowing it would likely be ignored. In it, he spoke of hope, of humanity's desire for peace, of the contributions humans still wanted to make to galactic civilization. He sent the message and waited. Hours passed. No response came. Not from the Council. Not from any of the thousands of species that had once called humanity friend and partner. The silence was absolute. As dawn broke over the alien city outside, Deho watched the first human ships begin their journey away from Council space. Massive colony ships packed with people who had called these worlds home. Cargo vessels loaded with everything humanity had built in 50 years among the stars. Military ships flying escort, weapons charged, ready for any species that might decide to speed the exile with violence. The great exodus had begun. Humanity was being pushed into the darkness beyond known space, into the region called the Outer Veil, where resources were scarce and dangers were many. The Council expected them to fade away, to struggle and diminish, and eventually disappear. Deho watched the ships go and made a silent promise. Humanity would not fade. They would not disappear. Somehow, some way, they would survive. And perhaps, one day, the Council would regret this decision. He didn't know how right he would be. The colony ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel and Minho felt his stomach lurch. He gripped the armrest of his seat and looked at the view screen. Outside, the outer veil stretched before them like a wall of purple and blue clouds mixed with strange lights that flickered and moved. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. That's our new home? Asked a colonist behind him, fear clear in her voice. That's it, Minho replied, trying to sound confident. The Council gave us the worst region in known space, so we'll make it the best. The first months were brutal. The colony ships landed on a planet they named New Haven, but it felt more like New Hell. The soil was toxic. The water had to be filtered 3 times before humans could drink it. The temperature swung 50 degrees between day and night. Supply ships that were supposed to follow from Earth were delayed because the Council kept blocking their routes through safe space. People started to starve. Minho, as the elected governor, spent sleepless nights trying to solve problems that seemed impossible. The crops wouldn't grow in the alien soil. The equipment kept breaking down from the extreme temperature changes. And worst of all, people were losing hope. Then Yunji had an idea. She was an engineer who specialized in faster-than-light drives. But she had been studying the strange energy readings from the outer veil itself. Governor, she said, bursting into his office one morning. The veil isn't just empty space. It's full of exotic matter that the council species can't use. Can't use or won't use? Minho asked. Both, Unji replied, spreading data across his desk display. Their technology is too rigid. They use the same FTL principles they've used for thousands of years, but the veil energy works differently. It's chaotic, unpredictable. Their ships would tear apart if they tried to use it. And ours won't? Unji grinned. Human ships are designed to adapt. We build redundancies. We expect things to go wrong. I think I can modify our drives to channel veil energy. We could travel twice as fast as council ships, maybe faster. While Unji worked on her drive theories, Minho faced another crisis. The colonists were starting to fight over food rations. A man had pulled a knife on another over a can of protein paste. Minho knew they needed a breakthrough soon, or the colony would tear itself apart. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young farmer named Jihoon had been experimenting with the local plant life against all safety regulations. He burst into the town hall one evening carrying a basket of strange purple vegetables. Governor, I modified our potato seeds with DNA from native plants. They grow in the toxic soil. I've been eating them for a week and I'm fine. The colony's doctor ran tests and confirmed it. The hybrid plants were not only safe, but actually more nutritious than Earth vegetables. Within a month, fields of purple and green crops covered the valleys around New Haven. People stopped starving. Then, the Krell came. Commander Junho was inspecting the defense satellites around New Haven when his sensors picked up unknown ships, hundreds of them. They looked like massive insects, all chitin and sharp edges. And they were heading straight for the colony. Battle stations, Junho ordered calmly. His defense fleet consisted of 20 small warships, designed more for police work than real combat. The Krell had at least 200 ships, and they looked built for war. The Krell attacked without warning or communication. Junho's fleet fought back, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Conventional tactics would see them destroyed in minutes, so Junho did something the Krell didn't expect. He ignored conventional tactics entirely. He ordered half his ships to retreat toward the Veil storms, the dangerous energy clouds that filled the region. The Krell followed, eager for an easy kill. Then Junho's ships dove into the storm itself. The Krell hesitated, but their momentum carried them in. Inside the storm, the Krell ships started tearing apart. Their shields couldn't handle the chaotic Veil energy. Their weapons systems overloaded. But Junho's human ships, built with redundancies and adaptive systems, survived. They turned and fired at point-blank range, destroying dozens of Krell vessels. The remaining Krell fled, but Junho knew they would return. He sent an urgent message to all human colonies in the Veil. We are not alone out here. The Council never mentioned the hostile species in this region. We need to be ready. Back on New Haven, Minho called together representatives from all the scattered human colonies. They met in a simple building that served as a temporary government center. 50 leaders, representing nearly 3 million exiled humans, argued for days about what to do. We need a unified defense, Junho insisted. The Krell will come back with more ships, but we also need to preserve our independence, another governor argued. We didn't leave Earth to answer to another centralized government. Minho listened to all sides and then proposed a compromise. We create a frontier confederacy. Each colony keeps its independence, but we agree to common defense and share technology. No one rules everyone else. We cooperate because it makes us stronger. After days of debate, they voted. The Frontier Confederacy was born, a loose alliance of human colonies bound by mutual need and shared culture. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Unji completed her first prototype, Veil Drive. The test ship, a small courier vessel, jumped from New Haven to a colony on the other side of the outer Veil in less than a day, a journey that would have taken council ships a week. When the results were confirmed, Yoonji became the most celebrated engineer in human space. 6 years after the exile began, Minho stood on a hill overlooking New Haven. The purple fields stretched to the horizon. New buildings rose every day. In orbit, shipyards were constructing vessels equipped with Veil drives. And on the outskirts of the system, Junho's expanded defense fleet patrolled constantly, ready for the next Krell attack. "We're not just surviving," Heijin said, joining him on the hill. She had left diplomatic service to become the Confederacy's science advisor. "We're thriving. The Council thought exile would destroy us," Minho said. "Instead, it freed us. Out here, we don't have to follow their rules or respect their traditions. We can innovate without asking permission." "Do you think they're watching?" Heijin asked. "I'm sure they are," Minho replied. "And I'm sure they're starting to worry." Far away, on the edges of Council space, long-range sensors were indeed picking up unusual readings from the outer veil. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Ships moving faster than should be possible. The Council's intelligence services filed reports, but the politicians ignored them. Humanity was exiled and forgotten. What could a bunch of desperate refugees possibly do? They would find out soon enough. Seokjin stood before the gathered representatives of 47 human colonies and spoke with a voice that carried hope and strength. "We have survived the exile. We have built homes in a region the Council called worthless. We have defended ourselves against enemies they never warned us about. But survival is not enough. It's time to become something greater." So Wei, Constan, End of 5. With Werbided, the meeting hall on New Haven was packed. 10 years had passed since the exile, and the scattered human colonies had grown into thriving worlds. The Frontier Confederacy had worked well for defense and trade, but many felt it was too loose, too disorganized to face the challenges ahead. "You want to centralize power," Governor Minho said from his seat. He had aged in 10 years, his hair now streaked with gray. "That's dangerous. People fled Earth to escape over-centralized governments. I'm not proposing a dictatorship," Seokjin replied calmly. "I'm proposing an empire built on principles of local freedom and central coordination. Each world keeps its own government, its own laws. But we unite our military, our foreign policy, our research efforts. We become strong together, while staying free, individually." A woman named Yuna watched the debate from the shadows at the back of the hall. She had arrived on New Haven 3 years ago, with no official position. But everyone who mattered knew who she was. She ran the intelligence network that now stretched across human space and beyond. Her agents operated in Council territory, gathering information that the exile was supposed to prevent. Yuna had brought evidence to this meeting. Evidence that several Council species were declining. Their economies were stagnating because they refused to adopt new ideas. Their military technology hadn't improved in centuries because tradition mattered more than innovation. The galaxy was changing, but the Council was frozen in time. When Seokjin finished his proposal, Minho called for a vote. It was close. Some colonies feared losing independence. Others worried about the cost of a unified military. But in the end, the measure passed. The Frontier Confederacy would transform into the Human Frontier Empire, with Seokjin as its first premier. "I accept this responsibility," Seokjin said after the vote. "And I promise you this, we will never become what the Council feared. We will never be conquerors or tyrants, but we will be strong. Strong enough that no one can exile us again. Strong enough that no one can tell us where we belong." Admiral Taewoo took command of the new Imperial fleet with clear objectives. Junho had retired after years of frontier defense, recommending his protege for the position. Taewoo was younger, more aggressive, and willing to embrace radical ideas about warfare. "The Council fights the way they've always fought," Taewoo explained to his officers. "Big ships in big formations, following ancient tactical books. We're going to fight differently. Our ships will be smaller, faster, more independent. Every captain will have the authority to make decisions without waiting for orders. We'll hit the enemy from unexpected angles and disappear before they can respond. Yunji's Veil Drive technology had advanced rapidly. The newest human ships could jump instantly between Veil-linked points. It was like having roads through space that only humans could use. The Council had nothing like it. Their ships still plodded along using thousand-year-old FTL technology. Human weapons had also advanced. Veil energy could be weaponized in ways that bypassed traditional shields. The first Veil cannon test destroyed an asteroid with a single shot that seemed to phase through space itself. Council shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, would be useless against them. Yuna's intelligence network brought concerning news. The Krell were massing for another invasion. They had spent 10 years building a massive fleet, far larger than their first attack. They planned to sweep through human space and destroy every colony. How many ships? Sokjin asked in the Emergency War Council. At least 5,000. Yuna replied. Maybe more. Every Krell clan is contributing. They see us as prey that fought back, and that insulted them. This is about honor now. Not just resources. Taewoo studied the tactical maps. 5,000 ships against our 200. If we fight a conventional battle, we lose. Then we don't fight a conventional battle, Sokjin said. Admiral, you have full authority to defend the Empire, using whatever methods you deem necessary. The Krell invasion force entered human space through the Veil Nebula, a massive cloud of energy storms that marked the border of Imperial territory. They expected to push through and attack the nearest colonies. Instead, they found Taewoo's fleet waiting. The Battle of the Veil Nebula became the defining moment of the young Empire. Taewoo divided his fleet into small strike groups. When the Krell charged forward in their massive formations, human ships appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished back into the Veil storms. The Krell couldn't adapt. Their battle computers expected enemies to fight in formation, to hold ground, to follow the rules of war. Human ships ignored all those rules. They used the nebula's energy storms as highways, appearing behind Krell ships, destroying them, and disappearing again. One Krell commander, frustrated beyond reason, led his entire clan fleet deep into the nebula to chase human ships. The nebula's energy ripped his vessels apart. Hundreds of Krell ships died in minutes, victims of their own aggression and the environment that humans had learned to use as a weapon. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Krell invasion force was shattered. More than half their ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. The survivors fled back to Krell space, and they kept running. The human ships pursued them all the way to their home clusters, destroying military installations and shipyards. The message was clear. Attack humanity, and we will not just defend ourselves. We will come to your home and break your ability to ever attack again. News of the victory spread through both human and council space. In the Empire, celebrations lasted for weeks. Seokjin's government was validated. The unification had created something powerful. In council space, the reactions were mixed. Some species celebrated humanity's victory over the Krell, who had raided council borders for years. Other species felt fear. How did humans defeat a force 25 times their size? What technology did they have? And most importantly, would they use that power against the council? Yuna's agents reported panic in several council chambers. Military budgets were being increased. Some species were calling for preemptive strikes against human space before the Empire grew stronger. Others argued for reconciliation, for ending the exile and inviting humanity back to the council as equals. They're scared, Yuna told Sokjin in a private meeting. And scared people do stupid things. Then we need to be ready for stupidity, Sokjin replied. He looked at the star map on his wall, showing both imperial space and the vast territories of the council. We didn't ask for this exile. We didn't start this conflict. But if they come for us again, we'll finish it. Far away on Station Nexus Prime, Speaker Vrenthos reviewed the same battle reports. The ancient Thalaxian felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt. Perhaps the council had made a mistake. Perhaps humanity should have been guided instead of exiled. But it was too late now. The humans were no longer desperate refugees. They were an empire, rising in the darkness beyond council space, growing stronger every day, and possibly preparing for revenge. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the council was not in control of that change. Jiwan adjusted her diplomatic badge and took a deep breath. The transport ship was approaching the border of council space, the first official human vessel to do so in 15 years. She carried a message from First Premier Sokjin. Humanity wanted peace, wanted trade, wanted to end the exile, and return to the galactic community. The response came quickly and coldly. Human vessel, you are not authorized to enter council space. Turn back immediately, or you will be destroyed. Jiwan stared at the communication screen in disbelief. She had prepared speeches about cooperation and mutual benefit. She had brought gifts and cultural artifacts to share. None of it mattered. The council wasn't even willing to listen. This is Ambassador Jiwan of the Human Frontier Empire. I carry a peaceful message from our government. I request a meeting with the council to discuss ending the exile. Request denied. The exile is permanent. Turn back now. The ship turned back. Jiwan sat in her cabin and wrote her report for Sokjin. The council wasn't interested in peace or reconciliation. They wanted humanity to stay away and stay forgotten. But the galaxy had changed, and humanity was no longer easy to ignore. Captain Sunho commanded the exploration ship called the Dauntless. His mission was to map the regions beyond Imperial space and search for resources and potential threats. He had been doing this job for 2 years, and he loved it. The freedom of deep space, the thrill of discovery, the beauty of unexplored systems. Today was different. His sensors had picked up something unusual near the council border. Energy signatures that looked like military ships. Lots of them. Sunho ordered his ship to investigate carefully, staying hidden behind asteroids and debris fields. What he found made his blood run cold. A council fleet was gathering. Not just a few ships for border patrol. Thousands of warships from dozens of different species, all assembling in secret bases along the border with human space. This was an invasion force. Sunho transmitted his findings back to Imperial Command, using the secure Veil-linked communications that the Council couldn't intercept. Then he stayed hidden, watching and recording as more ships arrived every day. On Station Nexus Prime, the Council was divided. In a closed session that only senior members could attend, the debate raged for hours. Threxis, a moderate member from the Deltarian Union, stood and spoke carefully. This path leads to disaster. Humanity has grown strong, yes, but they have not attacked us. They have not violated the exile terms. They have defended themselves against the Krell and secured their territory. Why should we view this as a threat? 1. High Admiral Korthan rose to respond. He was a Vrakan, a species that had built the Council's military power for centuries. His scales were deep red with age, and his voice carried the weight of command. Because they will not stop. Humanity's nature is to expand, to consume, to dominate. We have seen the intelligence reports. Their technology advances faster than any species in recorded history. Give them another 10 years, and they will match our strength. Give them 20, and they will surpass us. Then we should negotiate with them, Threxis insisted. Bring them back into the Council as partners. Use their innovation to strengthen all of us. Partners? Korthan laughed bitterly. You cannot partner with a species that refuses to know its place. We tried that before the exile. They would not follow guidance. They questioned every tradition. They innovated without permission. Do you want that chaos spread across the galaxy? Other members joined the debate. Some supported Threxis and called for peace. Others backed Korthan and demanded action. The votes came down to a narrow margin. The Council authorized the buildup of a defensive fleet. 10,000 warships would secure the border and, if necessary, push into human territory to eliminate military installations before they became too powerful. The vote was called defensive. Everyone knew it was preparation for war. Yuna's agents inside Council space confirmed the war preparations. She brought the evidence to an emergency meeting with Sokjin and his cabinet. Maps showed fleet positions, supply lines, and likely attack routes. They're planning a preemptive strike, Yuna explained. Korthan has convinced enough council members that we're a future threat. They want to hit us before we grow stronger. How long do we have? Sokjin asked. 6 months. Maybe less. They're still gathering ships and supplies. But once they're ready, they'll move fast. Admiral Tewu studied the tactical data with cold calculation. 10,000 ships. That's 50 times what we have. Even with our technological advantages, those numbers are overwhelming. What about the Veil Gates? Asked Minister Kyungsoo, who oversaw civilian affairs. Can we evacuate people? Unji, now the Empire's chief science advisor, shook her head. The gates can move ships quickly, but not entire populations. If they're determined to attack civilian targets, we can't save everyone. Sokjin sat in silence for a long moment. Then, he made his decision. We don't run. We don't surrender. We prepare. Tewu. Finish, Project Sentinel. I don't care about the cost or the timeline. We need it operational before they attack. Project Sentinel had been in development for 3 years. It was Yunji's most ambitious creation. A network of automated defense platforms that used Veil energy to power weapons of incredible, destructive capability. The platforms could be positioned throughout Imperial space, creating a defensive grid that would multiply the fleet's effectiveness. The problem was they weren't ready. The technology was proven, but building hundreds of platforms and deploying them took time. Time they might not have. We can have maybe 50 platforms ready in 6 months, Unji said. That's not enough for full coverage. But we can protect the most critical systems. Do it, Sokjin ordered. And Yuna, I need your people to gather more intelligence. I want to know exactly when they plan to attack and what route they'll take. As the meeting ended and people filed out, Tewu stayed behind. Premier, if this war happens, it will be ugly. We can defend ourselves, maybe even win. But the cost will be enormous. I know, Sokjin said quietly. The council exiled us because they feared what we might become. Now they're going to attack us because we became strong despite the exile. There's no winning with people like that. So what do? We survive, Sokjin said firmly. And then we show them that there's a better way. Not through conquest or revenge, but by building something worth joining. Over the next months, the Empire transformed into a wartime society. Shipyards worked day and night. The Veil Gates hummed with constant traffic as materials and personnel moved to critical defensive positions. Tewu drilled his fleet in tactics designed to maximize their technological advantages against superior numbers. Threxus watched the war preparations from his seat in the council and felt sick. He had spent his entire career working for peace and cooperation. Now his own government was preparing to attack a species that had done nothing but survive and prosper in exile. He began secretly copying files, intelligence reports, and military plans. He didn't know what he would do with them, but his conscience demanded he preserve evidence of what was about to happen. Jiwon, still serving as ambassador despite having nowhere to go, spent her time trying to establish contact with moderate council members. Most ignored her. A few responded with sympathy, but no action. The tide of war was rising, and peaceful voices were drowned out by fear and aggression. In the depths of space, Sunho continued watching the council fleet grow. His crew had been at their posts for months, living on recycled air and emergency rations, maintaining radio silence. They watched thousands of warships prepare for invasion and sent detailed reports home. On the last day before they had to return for supplies, Sunho recorded one final message. "This is Captain Sunho of the Dauntless. The Council fleet is ready to move. They have 10,200 ships by our count. Maybe more we couldn't see. They're preparing for departure. If you're receiving this, the war is about to begin. Good luck to us all." The message reached Imperial Command just as Taewoo was making final preparations. The Admiral looked at the star maps one more time, checking defensive positions, supply lines, and contingency plans. Everything that could be done had been done. "They wanted us to disappear," he said to his staff. "Instead, we became strong. Now let's show them what that strength means." The Council fleet crossed into Imperial space at dawn on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. High Admiral Korthon stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Dominion's Will, and felt confident. 10,000 ships against a few hundred human vessels. Numbers would decide this war. And he had all the numbers. "Deploy the first wave," he ordered. 2,000 ships advanced to the inner colonies. Destroy any military installations. Avoid civilian casualties if possible. But the mission comes first. The first wave jumped forward. They're faster than light drives, creating ripples in space that sensors across the galaxy could detect. They expected to meet resistance at the border, maybe a few human ships trying desperately to slow them down. Instead, they encountered something unexpected. Project Sentinel activated. 50 automated defense platforms that had been hidden in the Veil's energy patterns suddenly appeared. Each platform was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that glowed with purple Veil energy. They opened fire. The Veil cannons didn't shoot beams or missiles. They created tears in space itself. Council ships, that had shields strong enough to withstand nuclear weapons, found those shields useless. The Veil energy passed through shields like they weren't there, and struck the ships directly. Within the first 10 minutes, 300 Council ships were destroyed. The survivors tried to retreat, but the platforms had been positioned along their escape routes. Another 200 ships died before the rest managed to jump away in panic. On the Dominion's Will, Korthon stared at the reports in disbelief. 500 ships gone in less than an hour. These weren't supposed to be possible. What are those weapons? Why don't our shields work? His science officer looked terrified. The weapons use exotic matter from the Veil itself. Our shields were designed for conventional energy attacks. These attacks are rights. They're like nothing we've ever encountered. Admiral Taewoo watched from his command ship, the Defiant, as the first engagement ended. His fleet hadn't even engaged yet. The Sentinel platforms had done their job perfectly, breaking the Council's first wave and buying time for the real battle to begin. All ships, activate Veil gates. Execute Tactical Plan 7. The Imperial fleet split into dozens of small groups. Each group jumped through Veil gates to different locations across the battlefield. The Council fleet, trained for conventional warfare, expected the enemy to mass together for a decisive engagement. Instead, human ships appeared everywhere at once. A group of 5 human destroyers appeared behind a Council formation, launched a volley of Veil torpedoes that destroyed 20 ships, and vanished through another gate before the Council ships could even turn to face them. This happened simultaneously in 100 locations. Korthon tried to adapt, ordering his fleet to spread out and form defensive positions. But every time they moved, human ships appeared where they weren't expected. The Veil gates gave humans total battlefield mobility. They could concentrate force anywhere instantly, strike, and disappear. The Battle of the Border lasted 3 days. Korthon threw everything he had at the human defensive lines. He sacrificed thousands of ships trying to break through. Whenever he seemed to make progress, more Sentinel platforms would activate, or human strike groups would hit his supply lines, or new Imperial reinforcements would appear from nowhere. On the 3rd day, with half his fleet destroyed and the rest scattered and demoralized, Korthon gave the order to retreat. It was the first time in 3,000 years that the Council's military had been decisively defeated. Seokjin watched the tactical displays from his command center on New Haven. The victory was clear, but the cost had been significant. 28 human ships destroyed, 40 more damaged, and despite efforts to avoid civilian casualties, 3 council ships had crashed on border colonies, killing thousands. We could pursue them, Taewoo said over the communication link. Push into council space while they're broken. Take territory. Make them pay. No, Seokjin said firmly. That's not who we are. Prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. I'm going to address the galaxy. Threxus sat in his chambers on Station Nexus Prime and watched Seokjin's broadcast. The human leader appeared on screens across the galaxy, speaking calmly despite having just won the greatest military victory in recent history. People of the galaxy, this war was not our choice. 15 years ago, we were exiled for being different, for refusing to conform to traditions that didn't serve us. We accepted that exile peacefully. We built new lives in the darkness beyond council space. We bothered no one, and asked for nothing, except to be left alone. The council couldn't accept that. They feared our success. They feared our innovation. So they sent a fleet to destroy us. We defended ourselves. We defeated that fleet, but we will not pursue them. We will not invade council space. We will not seek revenge. Instead, we offer an alternative. A new compact for galactic civilization. One based on cooperation instead of hierarchy. One where innovation is encouraged instead of feared. One where species are judged by their actions, not their age or their willingness to conform. Any species that wishes to join this alliance is welcome. We don't care if you're old or young, powerful or weak, similar to us or completely different. All we ask is that you respect the rights of others and contribute to the common good. We will not exile anyone for being different. We will not attack anyone for being strong. And we will not tolerate aggression against peaceful members. To the Council, we say this. Your war has failed, but our door remains open. If you wish to join us as equals, you are welcome. If you wish to remain separate but at peace, we will respect that. But if you attack us again, we will defend ourselves again. And next time, we will not stop at the border. Minji, who had spent the war coordinating civilian defense and emergency services, now led a new effort. She took humanitarian teams into council space to help refugees displaced by the fighting. When border colonies suffered from food shortages due to disrupted supply lines, human ships brought supplies. When wounded, council soldiers needed medical care, human doctors treated them without asking which species they fought for. These acts of mercy were broadcast across the galaxy. People saw humans, the supposedly dangerous and aggressive species, helping their enemies. The contrast with council propaganda was striking. Threxus could no longer stay silent. He copied all the evidence he had gathered about council corruption, stagnation, and the unjust decision to attack humanity. He sent it to every major news service in the galaxy. Then, he recorded his own broadcast. I am Threxus of the Deltarian Union, member of the Galactic Council for 47 years. I stand here today to confess that I have been part of a system that values tradition over truth, hierarchy over justice, and fear over wisdom. Humanity was exiled because we feared them. Not because they were evil or aggressive, but because they were different, and we couldn't control them. When they succeeded despite exile, we feared them more. So we attacked them. We sent 10,000 ships to destroy colonies of peaceful people who had done nothing to us. They defeated us. And now they offer us peace, cooperation, and a chance to join something better than what we have. I accept their offer. I resign from the Council and formally request membership in the Human Frontier Alliance. I encourage my species, and all species, to consider doing the same. The Council served us well for 3,000 years. But the galaxy has changed. It's time we changed with it. The council chamber erupted in chaos when Threxus's broadcast finished. Some members demanded his arrest for treason. Others quietly began reviewing the evidence he had released and realizing he was right. Several species recalled their delegates and began negotiations with human ambassadors. Over the next 5 years, the political map of the galaxy transformed. Some council species clung to the old ways and remained isolated in their declining civilizations. But many others, especially younger species, and those who had always felt constrained by council traditions, joined the new alliance that humans had proposed. The Human Frontier Empire, once a collection of exiled refugees, became the core of a new galactic order. The new alliance didn't replace the council, but offered an alternative. Species could choose which path they wanted to follow. Jiwan, who had been turned away from council space years ago, now walked freely through stations across the galaxy. She negotiated trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. The exile was over, not because it had been lifted, but because it no longer mattered. Deho, old now but still sharp, returned to Station Nexus Prime as humanity's official ambassador to the Council Remnant. He walked into the same chamber where he had been condemned to exile 30 years earlier. This time, he walked as an equal, representing an empire that the Council could no longer ignore or dismiss. Speaker Vrenthos was gone, his species having withdrawn from galactic politics entirely. The new Council leadership was smaller, humbler, and cautiously interested in cooperation with the new alliance. Ambassador Deho, the new speaker said, "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend an official apology for the exile. It was unjust, and based on fear rather than reason. We would like to discuss terms for normalizing relations." Deho smiled slightly. "The exile was the best thing that ever happened to us. It forced us to become self-reliant, innovative, and strong. But I accept your apology, and I think we can work together, as long as it's as equals, not as elders and children." That night, Deho stood in the same observation room where he had watched the first exile ships depart 30 years ago. Now he watched human ships, council ships, and vessels from dozens of species that had joined the new alliance, moving freely through space together. Heijin joined him, older but still passionate about the future. "We did it," she said quietly. "We survived. We thrived. We built something better." "Not we," Deho corrected gently. "They. The people who came after us. The ones who refused to give up. Who adapted to every challenge. Who turned exile into opportunity. That's what makes humans special. Not our technology or our military. Our refusal to accept limits that others try to place on us." "Do you think it will last?" Heijin asked. "This new alliance? This new way of doing things?" "Nothing lasts forever," Deho said. "But it will last long enough. And when it eventually changes, humans will adapt to that too. Because that's what we do." Far away on New Haven, Sogjin addressed a gathering of the new alliance's first joint assembly. Representatives from 73 species filled the hall. More species than the Council had ever managed to unite. "We call this the Alliance of Free Peoples," Seokjin said. "Not because we're free from responsibility or consequences, but because we're free to grow, to change, to be different from each other and still cooperate. The Council wanted unity through conformity. We offer unity through diversity. This will not be easy. Different species will disagree. Conflicts will arise. But we will face those challenges together, as partners who respect each other's right to exist and thrive. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. There's no need to fear those who are different. Instead, we can learn from them and become better together. Humanity was exiled because we refused to conform. That exile made us strong. Now we use that strength not for conquest or revenge, but to build something worth defending. A civilization where innovation is celebrated, where change is embraced, where no one is told they don't belong because they think differently. Welcome to the future. Let's build it together." The assembly erupted in approval. The sounds of 73 different species expressing joy in 73 different ways. And in that moment, Seokjin knew that the exile, the struggle, the war, had all been worth it. Humanity hadn't just survived being exiled, they had transformed the galaxy.